Day 10 Word of God, Deuteronomy chapter 2 verse 7. For the Lord thy God hath blessed thee in all the works of thy hand. He knoweth thy walking through this great wilderness. These 40 years the Lord thy God hath been with thee. Thou hast lacked nothing. Deuteronomy chapter 2 verse 7 is part of Moses' address to the Israelites as they are on the verge of entering the promised land after 40 years of wandering in the wilderness. This chapter recounts the journey and experiences of the Israelites since they left Egypt, emphasizing God's faithfulness and provision throughout their journey. In Deuteronomy chapter 2 verse 7, Moses reminds the people that despite the challenges and hardships they faced, God has blessed them in all their efforts, watched over them during their wilderness journey, and provided for all their needs. For the Lord thy God hath blessed thee in all the works of thy hand, emphasizes that every endeavor of the Israelites, whether in battle, survival, or daily labor, has been blessed by God. This phrase underscores God's favor upon his people, assuring them that their work has been fruitful because of his blessings. It reflects the principle that when God's people obey and trust in him, he blesses their efforts and causes them to prosper. He knoweth thy walking through this great wilderness, acknowledges that God has been fully aware of their journey, including every hardship and struggle they faced during the 40 years in the wilderness. Walking symbolizes their daily lives, steps, and the journey as a whole. This phrase reassures the Israelites that God's knowledge is personal and intimate. He has seen every step they have taken and every difficulty they have encountered. These 40 years the Lord thy God hath been with thee, serves as a reminder of God's continuous presence with the Israelites throughout their entire journey. Despite their disobedience, complaints, and doubts, God remained with them, guiding and protecting them. This statement reinforces God's faithfulness to his covenant and his people. Thou hast lacked nothing, concludes the verse with a powerful declaration of God's provision. Despite being in a harsh and barren wilderness, the Israelites lacked nothing because God provided for all their needs, whether it was manna from heaven, water from a rock, or protection from their enemies. This underscores God's ability to provide abundantly, even in the most challenging circumstances. God provided manna, bread from heaven, daily and water from a rock when the Israelites were thirsty, Exodus chapter 16-17. These miraculous provisions highlight how God met every need of the Israelites, demonstrating that they indeed lacked nothing. Throughout their journey, God protected the Israelites from various enemies, such as the Amalekites, Exodus chapter 17 verse 8-13, and the Moabites. God's guidance and protection ensured that they were not overpowered by their enemies, reinforcing his constant presence and care. In Matthew chapter 14 verse 13-21, Jesus miraculously feeds over 5,000 people with just 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, illustrating God's ability to provide abundantly and meet every need. In Acts chapter 4 verse 34-35, we see that there was no needy person among them, because the early Christians shared everything they had, ensuring that all were provided for. This reflects the continued principle of God's provision for his people. For believers today, Deuteronomy chapter 2 verse 7 is a reminder of God's faithfulness and provision throughout every journey and challenge we face. It encourages us to trust that God knows our daily struggles, efforts, and challenges. This verse challenges us to have faith in God's ability to provide for us, even in seemingly barren or difficult times, knowing that he sees and knows every step of our journey. It also invites us to live with a sense of gratitude, recognizing that every blessing we have comes from God's hand. In a world often driven by anxiety about resources and provision, Deuteronomy chapter 2 verse 7 reassures us that God is fully aware of our needs and is faithful to meet them. Ultimately, it calls us to remember that God has always been with us and will continue to guide, protect, and provide for us, ensuring that we lack nothing as we walk in his ways. God bless you and give you grace after grace.